Hey everybody, it is 9:16 Pacific, which makes it 16 minutes after midnight in East, and welcome to Zenny62. And not only that, I think I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm so used to using Firefox, it's not funny, but I think what I'm going to do while I'm talking here is I'm going to switch over from Firefox to another browser. Um, and I'll do that right now as I'm, chatting with you. Because for some particular reason Firefox has been chunky, right? And hasn't acted right. And it feels like I am wading through a cyber soup when I use it. If I push a button, it doesn't respond properly. Some with Firefox just isn't quite right. It is, to use a term that I used in The Fugitive, hinky. Yeah, hinky. So as I talk to you, I'm going over to the less hinky version, and that is uh, the less hinky version that is of my stream, which is, I theoretically believe, is on Chrome, you know, and so we'll see how this goes. The problem is that sometimes the username password stuff doesn't transfer over like it should, but we're going to test and see if this thingy works. And woo, it worked. Hey, it worked over on Chrome. So far so good. And yeah, and I'm pushing buttons over here, and I'm going over here on the browser, and I'm going here, and I'm waiting for this, and I'm waiting for that. And you know what? I'm liking this stuff. This is moving. Oh yeah, this is better than Firefox. Firefox was just awful, man. It just was plain terrible, man. Just not cool, man. Just not happening. Chrome, I feel like I went from driving an old gas guzzling car to, a stream is good, to this sleek racer. That's how it feels. The sleek modern racer. I like it. I'm liking it. Yeah. And welcome to Zenny62, as I said before. And I'm going to share this one more time on Twitter, put it out there, and then talk, because there's a lot going on. Sometimes I have what's called vlogger's block, which is kind of like writer's block, but it's a vlog version. And vlogger's block is where you don't quite know that night what you're going to talk about, okay? You're kind of like, oh, gee, what do I want to talk about? And then it's like, well, gee, I want to make something really entertaining, right? And then it's like, okay, yeah, maybe I do want to make things entertaining, but then maybe I don't, right? And then it's like, oh, gee, I want to inform them more than I want to entertain them, right? And then it's like, what do you really want to do? That's quite literally the thought process that I go through with what I'm going to talk about. And I err more often than not on the side of informing people. And it's very important to me to make sure that everybody is informed. And that's why I decided to do this. To do this about this update. And the reason is that, well, first of all, this is big news, folks. Second, no one's talking about this big news. And part of that, it could be deliberate. It could be that, but I have another feeling. I have another take on it that has to do more with economics, and I've talked about it before. There are fewer people who just simply are not paid to write about this sort of thing. And the editor only directs the reporter to write something if it's interesting, if something is sizzling, if it's going to happen, right? Otherwise, they say, why are we doing this? And guess what? The news never gets out there and it never gets reported because there's no action. I remember being at the, some of you were with me, at the NFL fall owners meeting in New York at the Conrad. Remember that one? And yeah, that one. And that fun thing. And I was doing the live stream and presenting everybody as much of the sounds and sights and sounds as I could of the NFL protests and the interviews and everything else, right? And so I was doing that, and this woman comes over and says, "Hey, I have to ask you, who are you doing that for?" And I told her about my company, right? And she says, "Oh, because I'm with the New York Post, and we're interested in tagging your feed. Because you're the only person that's doing this." I was the only person, the only media person. I knew this, but it's nice to hear from somebody else, right? I was the only person to really provide a look at what it was like to be at the meeting, what was going on, who was what, where, who was saying what, that sort of thing. You get the idea. And I'm very proud of that. And what I realized in talking with her is that editors always say, "Hey, JP from the P, how you doing?" Editors always say, "Hey, you know what? What's going on?" And that's not the point of it. The point of it is to give people a view of things and let them figure out what's going on. I find in a live stream or a story, people pick out angles that I didn't think about, but you have to give them the full view, right? And that's what I do. That's what the whole live stream is all about. And then there's this bit of information. JP from the P says, "What's up?" What's up is, hey, you're up. If you're on Twitter, please tweet this out as well. Put this out there so that others can see it. That's what's up. Yeah, that's what's up. Make sure people see this so that we can start talking and go from there. The big news is that the Oakland Raiders have not left Oakland. That's the big news. The Oakland Raiders have not only not left Oakland, the Oakland Raiders don't plan to leave Oakland for a while. And the reason they don't plan to leave Oakland for a while has to do with the story that you're going to hear first, right here. It's part prediction and part expected. I expect this project in Las Vegas to be delayed for reasons having to do with the wetness on the site, okay? You heard me correctly. That site is such that it does not drain water properly in its current position. And it's about the same kind of situation that we saw with Inglewood, but Inglewood had a greater than normal rainstorm period, and so it resulted in 12 to 15 feet of water. Well, in the situation with the Las Vegas Stadium site, the entire north end, after the 1.5 days of rain that occurred, that water did not drain away for 5 days. Okay, 5 days. And I believe that's why we didn't see people working on the site. It wasn't just that it was a weekend, right? Because I went over there not last Sunday, but the Sunday before. But my point is that the real problem is if you and I had walked out there, and let me show you what I'm talking about here, okay? You have to see this because I can do show and tell here. If you and I walked out to that site, past the signs that say, "No trespassing," past the signs that say, Las Vegas Stadium. There are no signs that announce the Raiders have anything to do with it at this point. If we walked past all that and basically, tried to get a feel for what the site was, what was going on at the site, right? And walked around and all that. You know what we would have found? I'll tell you. We would have gotten our shoes muddy, folks. That's what would have happened. We would have gotten our shoes quite muddied, and it would not be fun at all. It would have been, in some cases, if we walked over to the site or along the site, we not only would have gotten our shoes muddied, but we would have definitely, very much definitely, gotten our entire ankles hip deep in mud. Not hip, you can't get your ankles hip deep in mud. Your ankles like a foot deep in mud. Absolutely. Now I'm not here. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about, since this man was kind enough to go walk over with me. And I'm going to go over to the north end of the site and show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to stop you right here. Boom. I want you to look at this, okay? This is what I'm talking about. It's right there. See that? And I'm going to let this run. I'm going to turn up the volume here, like so, if I can. Can I? Let's see. Oh, I can't there. If I turn up the volume, it's going to be double, so I'll just go this. What I'm pointing at is a gigantic area of mud. Okay, and remember, this is 5 days after it rained. 5 days. And there are other parts here that are equally waterlogged throughout the entire north end of the property. That's what I'm gesturing to, okay? If we walked over here and we walked over there, this is all mud. All this is mud, which means there's water under it. Now, they're building the channel relocation project is going on over here. Okay, I couldn't get into the site to look down to see if there was water. All right, it's not anywhere near as obvious as it was at the Hollywood Bowl because they had a huge lake. But you know what? Another day of rain, and that's what you would have gotten, and it would have taken about 2 weeks to clear. Okay, you see that? You see what I'm talking about here? As we go in. This is not dry property, folks. Look at that. You see all these water deposits? Those are puddles. And further back here, little bitty larger puddles that we can't see quite over that berm there, right? Okay? That's a problem. Look at that. That's a problem. Look at this. Mud everywhere. And again, and I remind you, what you're looking at here, look at this. What you're seeing here, folks, all that you and I are looking at right there, all that is from 1.5 days of rain, not 3. Imagine if it were 3, okay? It doesn't take much. And then, of course, when I went over there in my other video where it rained, Polaris, the street was, it was half flooded. So my prediction, looking at the weather situation, that for that is we're going to see this thing delayed a year because of this drainage issue. Because they're digging up all of this dirt, making these tunnels, trying to move this channel, and they're doing all of this, but they have no control over the weather. None. And not only that, folks, but the property is already in an acknowledged 100-year flood zone, which means not that it rains for 100 years. It simply means that even though it doesn't rain a lot, when it does, water collects in that area quite rapidly. That's what it means. So that, now as to the cost to mitigate that, I'll find out, all right? Rick Rice says they're going to be there. Hey, Rick Rice, how you doing? He says they're going to be there a long time if they only got one crane doing the work. he says Mark Davis can only afford to use one crane, and J from the P gets a laugh. And Crawford says the NFL needs to be embarrassed about this. And, you know, I agree with you. This is something that the NFL is allowing to happen as we speak. And as I said the night before, it's almost like the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil deal, right? And then if you see this, right, and you see this, okay, and then we go back to how Mark Bedane reacted when I presented to him the question about the lease negotiation. You know, that's fun. Let's go back and take a look at that. Let me see if I can, hold on a second here. Let me see if I can, hold on a second here. If I can, let me put myself on mute there. I'll put myself on mute there. I'll do that, and then I'll go back over here, and then I'll get the Bedane interview right here. The Zenny 62, let's try Bedane, B-A, like that. And here is Bedane. Let's see if we can hear what Mark Bedane has to say. And I believe this is going to work. One moment, please, because this will be a lot of fun. Okay?
Say there are only 7 stories. I think there might only be 1 story.
Hold on a second. That was Ron Howard talking about his masterclass. And why I'm leaning over is I'm plugging in the speaker. It is not plugged in. And I'm going to skip the ad. And
Mark, you says
this is Mark Bedane, folks. And this is, now, keep in mind, we're talking about the lease negotiations that started last Friday that were not talked about in the mainstream media, right? This was on Thursday of the week before, okay? So pay attention to this. This takes on some interesting perspective. This is Bedane, and let's roll video right here.
satisfied with the progress and everything?
Yeah, we have been satisfied with the progress. In the last couple of months, we've made a lot of advancements. You heard Jeremy talk about the progress that has been made over the last couple of meetings. I don't think it's surprising, but I am pleased by it. I think they're pleased by it. We still have a lot to do, but you see that both sides are working collaboratively and working together to get all these documents finalized and make sure they're fair for all the different parties.
You think it's going to be a nice dovetail between closing out the Coliseum in Oakland and then doing this, specifically lease agreement extension, which I understand is going to come up this February?
I'm not trying to understand that question.
Basically, you got a lease agreement that's coming up for extension in February with the JPA and Coliseum. You're trying to design it so that you can close out the Coliseum and go here, as I understand it. In other words, are you satisfied that's on track?
I'm still not trying to understand the question. Am I satisfied with what's going on track in Oakland, or am I satisfied with what's going on track here?
Well, it's dovetail. You have to close out in Oakland.
Well, I would look at them separately.
Go ahead.
I'm very pleased with the progress here.
Okay.
I've had some conversations with Scott McKibben. He said he would get back to me, and when he does, we'll try and finalize 2019.
Gotcha.
Now, Jeremy said that he thinks about 80% through the documents. How big of a hurdle?
Okay, I'm going to stop there because my intention isn't the whole interview, but you heard that. That leads us to where we are as of last Friday with the closed session hearing or meeting on the Oakland Raiders lease negotiation. And so that one, now as to how that's come out, I am still trying to get information on it as I talk to you, okay? But the bottom line is the reason why Mark acted like that is because he doesn't want to give away any information regarding their negotiations with the Coliseum minders. That's why. So here I come representing a unique position in Las Vegas for CES, but hey, I could easily be there. There's no law against me being there, right? In Las Vegas for CES as press. So I saunter on over. I happen to know something about his project there. I also happen to know a ton about, the Raiders in Oakland, right? So I asked the question. I asked a logical question. That's all I did. And, okay. And so but I'm the only person in that room that has a foot in both camps, Oakland and Las Vegas, and a very deep foot at that. I was earlier in the week at the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority groundbreaking for the district. So I got in deep in a lot of areas. Point that I'm making is that I was uniquely positioned to ask him a question that combined the two efforts, Oakland and Las Vegas, in a way that scared him. I understand where he's coming from. Don't begrudge his I don't begrudge his answer at all. But he gave me an answer. And as someone told me, he answered the question forthrightly. And the person that he told me that, I can't say, but it was the right person to get it from. All right? So, Big Eightful says, Mark Bedane is a puppet of Mark Davis. Mark Davis is a puppet of Jerry Burns or Robert Kraft. Rick Rice agrees. Big Eightful says, thank you. But that's it, all right? Mark is, and you can see it right here. This is the story. Mark Bedane is trying to walk this tightrope, right? This is the tightrope. On this side, he's got Vegas. On that side, he's got the Coliseum. He's got to appear to the Vegas people. He's got to appear to be all in for Las Vegas. To the Coliseum people, he has to appear to want to get something done because he knows doggone well, he knows damn well Sam Boyd Stadium cannot accommodate the Oakland Raiders. And he also knows that they don't have enough money to convert Sam Boyd Stadium in such a way that it could do so. Otherwise, if they're really serious, they would have spent the money by now. They don't have it. And so, so Big Eightful says, are the Raiders going to be in Oakland past 2020? Given these two issues, I think so. I really do. And I think that we are going to see, here's the problem. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Hey, Jamal, how you doing? Hey, how you doing, Jamal? The problem, and Jamal says, Mark might have been rude, but he gave me an answer. And it didn't bother me because he answered it. And again, I understand where he's coming from. Off camera, we were fine. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Off camera, we were just fine. He says, great to see you. I said, great to see you. So in his answer, you can see his face contorting because he's trying to think of he's calculating a way to give me an answer based on what he wants people to see. Now, whatever it is he wanted, was it a good idea to want that? That's for you to decide. I got my answer. I got precisely what I wanted. And what I wanted was some indication of where the Raiders were with the lease negotiations. And look, I want everybody to understand something. It's very rare for the Raiders to be in a position where they're talking about the Coliseum lease like that. In that position, that was rare. So when he gave me that answer, woohoo, I was cool, all right? I was cool. I was just fine. I was just fine. I was just fine in the sunshine. Yeah. So I'm cool with that. It's the information that matters, okay? And Vincent says, I'm in college to be a sports journalist. Want to give me suggestions? No. Sorry. And so Vincent says, what are the % chances that the Raiders will be in Vegas? I don't do percentages. Sorry. But I will tell you this, since you're in college to be a journalist, I'm going to give you some advice. Don't make flat out predictions because it takes away from a story. Because you're not interested in telling a story. You're just interested in being right or wrong, which means I'm kind of thinking, is he really serious about wanting to be a journalist? All right. I'm like, and I don't mean to be insulting, Vincent. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to give you, or trying to get you out of something that I have observed is common in today's society. Everyone wants an answer. They don't want to hear the story. Like, for example, watch The Post. We talked about that the other night. The Post is an incredible story. I mean, if we look at The Post in the way I'm talking about, all right, it would be, well, hey, don't tell me how we got involved with the Viet Cong. Don't tell me about RAND Corporation, which stands for Research and Development. Just tell me this. Are we going to be in Vietnam or what, or not? Were you in Vietnam or not? Well, there's more to it than that. Okay? That's what I'm saying. This is a lot like that. Am I comparing Las Vegas to Vietnam? Yes, I am. I am. The Raiders, I'm going to say it straight out, folks. The Raiders are acting like President Nixon in Vietnam. And I might add Kennedy before him. You heard it. I'm saying it just like that. You're not getting the straight skinny. Everything is rosy. And then here comes this guy who you know what? It was my dream to get my PhD at the RAND Corporation before 30. I didn't go in that direction, but that was my dream when I was 21, okay? So you have this guy who, has that kind of background, me, asking these annoying, detailed questions and making these points about his project. And you heard his original answer, Bidet. He just wants you to have the rosy scenario, okay? That's it. So Vincent says, I attend 2 universities. I always dive deep into stories. Thank you so much. I never give something simple. Vincent, that made my night. Thank you. And Big April says, do you smell an upset in the Super Bowl? Does any Zinster... My Super Bowl prediction, I gave the Great Hula Gate earlier, and it's today, and I said that it's going to be Philadelphia 30, New England Patriots 21. That's an upset. That's an upset. I'm not going away. I just need to check something on the phone. Give me 1 second here. Pursuant to California Government Code Section 549569D4, conference with legal advisor, anticipated litigation, 1 case. And I believe that's actually the Warriors. And then 7B is pursuant to California Government Code Section 54956B, which is standard for joint powers authorities. Conference with real property negotiators, property 7000 Coliseum Way, Oakland, California, 94621, agency negotiator, Scott McKibben, executive director, Oakland, Alameda County Coliseum Authority, negotiating parties, Mark Davis, principal owner and managing partner, Oakland Raiders, under negotiation, price and terms of payment for lease agreement extension. See that? There it is, folks. It's in right there in black and white. So anybody tells you nothing's going on, something's going on. And not only that, that is why Mark Bidet acted the way that he did. I understood where he was coming from, okay? I got it. And Vincent asked me, what are my thoughts on the St. Louis lawsuit? Well, I'll tell you, I think that St. Louis has a great chance of winning its lawsuit, and it's going to be quite a fascinating outcome. But the St. Louis lawsuit paved the way for what you're going to see tomorrow in Oakland, all right? And Alvin says that the Patriots score will be closer to the field goal. By the way, since we're talking about NFL stuff, I want to congratulate Steve Wilkes on becoming the first black head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Well, excuse me, second black head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Dennis Green was the first. Congratulations. Wilkes is the now former defensive coordinator was the defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. And I think he's going to do an outstanding job as the Cardinals coach. I can't wait to see what kind of coaching staff he assembles and, see what he has to say when he's introduced to the media in Arizona and Phoenix metro area. Now, Vincent says if St. Louis wins, what will happen? What will happen is that they will have to negotiate they'll have to discuss how much money the NFL owes. They'll have to discuss how much money the NFL owes. They'll have to discuss how much money the NFL They'll have to discuss how much money the NFL owes them. That's basically what it is. They'll have to discuss how much the NFL will have to pay, and that's that'll happen. Oh, DeFilippo is Leo Cannings the Cardinals offensive coordinator job. Interesting. And Todd Haley went to the Browns. Wow, good for Cleveland. He didn't, Todd Haley didn't have to drive too far. I just hope that Todd and his wife stay out of the bars. Anyway, okay. Now, moving along, I don't know if you know about that situation or not. If you don't, I'm happy to explain it to you. If you say, hey, look, tell me about it, Zinni, I'll tell you about it. Otherwise, moving along. My point is this. There are two outstanding issues primarily, okay? Two. And one of them is, in terms of the outstanding issue, one of them is how much money the Raiders are going to pay, the Oakland Raiders are going to pay the Coliseum minders, the city and the county, not unpaid parking revenues. The Coliseum has estimated the price at just over $900,000. I am told by those who know that the Raiders and the Coliseum are moving toward a settlement. Now, taking what I've heard from one person and then coming back to another person, hey, Rob Ivan, how are you? I'm putting this together, and I believe that the part of the lease negotiation settlement will also take care of the parking issue. And I started to ask Mark Bonanno about that, but I didn't want to get too deep into the woods there. But I also wanted to give the Las Vegas media people a picture that, hey, you know what? There's some unfinished business in Oakland. Now, when Mark said we view them as separate, and I said, okay, I was dying to hear how that works. Because are you going to tell me you're going to be in Oakland running the stadium at the same time you're going to run it in Las Vegas? At some point, one's got to start and the other one ends. Or are you setting yourself up in a position for, hey, this, Vegas fails, we don't have to move at all. Ooh. So we'll just keep a foot in Oakland. We'll keep playing. We'll keep playing at the Coliseum until the Coliseum's wheels fall off, right? Or until we get a Super Bowl for Oakland, the Coliseum, and then once we've done that, okay, then we go to Vegas, all right? Something like that. Or they are playing this out until some other sword of Damocles in Las Vegas threatens to fall on their head and they dodge out of its way. I mean, how many swords do we have? We've got the bond issue and the taxpayers. We have a governor's race that could really hurt them, especially since stadium opponent Christian Giuliani received the backing of the State Teachers Association, the State Teachers Union, not the local one. Steve Sisolak, the county chairman, and her challenger won the local teachers union endorsement, but she got the state, okay? She got the freaking state over him. That's a huge news. That's enormous news, all right? If she wins the governorship, I predict major change that could adversely impact the Raiders, all right? And I believe the Raiders are playing for that. They would be fools not to. So for all of you who are willing to say, oh, you know what? The election is this fall. This is an election year, folks. Pay attention to politics. I'm telling you. Women's March, not only pay attention to it, but do it. Oakland Women's March, thank you to my friend Morgan Bach for getting some fantastic footage and doing live streams on Zinni 62. Pay attention. This is a political year, folks. Do not get caught with your pants down. Literally, I say that. Pay attention to what's happening. We have a mayor's race in Oakland, all right? The mayor has two other challengers, and soon to have a fourth, all right? So, excuse me, a third, all right? Now, thank you, T. Cooper. He says, yeah. And Donna says, should Oakland play hardball with Mark Davis? No. I'll explain why in a second. Thank you, Coop. Rob Iman says, November 5th, 2018, Trump pays for his sins. There you go. Young Leaf says, who's waiting on the Raiders versus Jack-O-Lanterns game? It's funny. Big April says midterm. Yep, that's right. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Big April says that was a dumb move by Milwaukee. Yeah, it was. Oh, Big April, you have mixed feelings about the Gruden coaching staff? I'm right there with you. Jason Kidd fired in Milwaukee. Yeah, I was shocked. Think about that. And that happened. And that happened what? Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah, that happened 3 days after Jason Kidd bobblehead day at Cal. Yeah, that sucks. It's like they said, you know what? You had a bobblehead day. Here's your bobblehead. Take that. They fired him. Anyway, shouldn't do that to a golden bear. What's wrong with you? Anyway, moving along. Rob Iman says the King should replace Jorga with Kidd. Interesting. And Jamal. Hey, so basically where we're at, come back to home to the title of this is where we're at is the Raiders are deep in negotiations regarding a lease extension that I believe is going to take them through 2021. And they would be fools not to. There are too many problems. The Raiders are trying to mask the problems, push everything ahead. They're already 4 months behind in getting these documents, all these documents done, signed, sealed, and delivered. Do you realize that? Originally, the target date for all the documents to be completed was October 17th of last year. We are not even close to that, okay? So, Rob Iman says Kidd would be a hit in Sacramento. He says Malton is not getting fired yet. The youngsters are starting. There are a number of people on my stream, folks. If you're watching this as a video on demand, you can't see the chats. There are a number of people on my stream who say that they believe Jason Kidd would be a great coach for the Lakers, if I'm not mistaking that. And Rob Iman says LeVar Ball is the problem for the Lakers. I love LeVar Ball. I think LeVar Ball is a fantastic gift to American culture. And a great businessman, a very intelligent one at that. There, I said it again. Moving along. Okay, now, what's going to happen? If you're curious about what's going to happen at the Thursday Stadium Authority meeting, I did talk about that earlier in a live stream. And the big news is that they're trying to find a person to run this community benefits committee, and the top person, this Sean, not Sean Sullivan, this Sean, his name just Sean Donovan, I believe it is. Name just flew right out of my head. But at any rate, he is the executive director of the Nevada Contractors Association. So let me, Sean, Nevada Contractors. There we go. And his name is Sean, Nevada Contractors Association. No reviews. And he is the executive director. There's this photograph. Let me try this another way. Nevada Contractors Association there. And executive director. Executive. And still not giving me what I want. Boy, this sucker is sucks. There it is. There is assistant manager, staff, Nevada Contractor Association. Sean Stewart. That's it. Sean Stewart, this man is the front runner right here. The front runner to be the head of the special committee, all right, to dole out regarding community benefits with respect to the community benefits agreement, okay? Now, the other person that I believe should be favored is the person who handles the diversity and contracting for MGM. But there are people, even those who are African American, who support Sean Stewart. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because you've got African Americans who feel that they're not going to get their fair share of the Raider project. And the question that will be on the back of everyone's mind, and I will say what it is, because they're not going to say it, is, hey, can this person who's white deliver for us as black contractors and make sure we get the work? All right? That is going to be front and center, the question. Why do I say he's the front runner? Because of all of the groups, the chambers of commerce, Latino Chamber of Commerce, etc., he is the favor. He's favored by 2 organizations, whereas the others are favored by 1. The other competitors are favored by 1. And I heard his name come up again and again and again when I was at the Stadium Authority meeting, which means he's an obviously well-connected political guy. Peter Guzman has the backing of Tommy White, who runs the Union Local 872. And Peter Guzman also follows me on Twitter and may very well be watching this broadcast as I talk to you. So, among other people. Hey, Peter, how you doing? Hope you win. That lays out that, all right? That lays out that. Rob Ivan says, I hope Wednesday's storm can bring some snow back to the mountains. And let's see here. What's up? How you doing? How are you? And, okay. Oh, go CSU. Thank you very much for doing the stream earlier. I saw the Rocky Mountains video. That was a great job, young man. And also, a nice job talking about the cities that are vying for the 2013 Winter Olympics. Thank you very much for your service to Zenny62. I still need that email, and you know what I'm talking about, and that's as much as I'll say about that because that's personal business. Moving along. Now, John Marks is here. Hey, all we need is Barry Lee, and we're complete. Where's Barry Lee? Where's Barry Lee? We've got our normal contingent of deplorables. Ooh, did I say that? Oh, did I say? Ooh. But, you know, yeah, I mean, Zinsters, I should say. Zinster deplorables. That's right. That's right. We have a unique thing going here. Let's now, I believe is anyone here not filled in regarding the Coliseum lease situation? If you are, just say yes. Oh, excuse me, forget yes. Just say if you're not, just give me a no. Just give me a no. Give me a no. All right. Hey, go CS. You don't need to answer that in text here. Just deal with that in email between us. Okay. Just learn to. All right. Cool. All right. Big April, no. Jamal, no. All right. Pablo, how you doing? No. Rick Rice, no. All right. No. All right. Here's the situation. On Friday of last week, in closed session, the city of Oakland met with Raider representatives in closed session to discuss a lease extension. That's what happened. And it happened outside of the view of the media, and it's not done. And I don't believe we're gonna get anything done until February. I have been told, and Bedane tried to make it look like, hey, nothing's going on. But look, I know for a fact a lot's going on. They just don't want it to be played out in the media, and that's smart. That is a deliberate decision. And again, that is why Mark Bedane acted the way that he did in response to my question. There was nothing wrong with what he did. I understand his position, 1,000,000%. All right? That's what you were getting. And so Pedro says, what if Las Vegas stadium's delayed a year? Will Raiders seek a 1-year lease extension deal? Well, actually, Pedro, it's set up, as I understand it right now, to have options. So it's not gonna die. Okay? It has a provision so that it can be moved forward a year. What I don't know is this. What I don't know is if there's any language that would allow for the reopening of plans for a new stadium in Oakland. That's the big deal. That I don't know. if it is in any way, and it says it's a lease extension, right? Oh, she's this it. Yes, that's it. Hold it. Yes. Hey, the lease, as it's designed, includes that language regarding a new stadium, talks and planning for a new stadium. That's not removed. It's still there. So they didn't tear that up to start all over again. So they can still talk new stadium. Should, okay, this thing go the way in one particular version of reality it could go. I'm not saying that'll happen, but my point is that, look, there are too many problems with this for that not to be a consideration from the Raiders' perspective. UNLV, come by hook or by crook, will get their large events arena. You can bet on that. They're not going to walk away from this empty-handed. The question is, how much money can the Oakland Raiders spend on this without going broke? That's the question, okay? The other question is, hey, well, now you're talking about hardball. Should the Coliseum put the Raiders in a position where they're squeezed in Oakland? No, that's bad business. What the Coliseum should do is move heaven and earth to make the Raiders say, you know what? This Vegas stuff isn't going the way we want it to, and I think we can do business in Oakland here. That's what you want them to say. Okay? So I don't think you take someone who you know is wounded and make them hurt. You take someone who you know is wounded and you make them feel better so they can turn around and say, hey, you know what? You helped us. That's what you want. You don't want the other one. And so Dean Willis says, I predict Raider name and colors are staying. And we'll find out more about what's going on there. And Rick Rice says, look, Rice, you say you're lost. Why are you lost? Big Eightful says, I see a game of Let's Make a Deal about to be played between Oakland and the Raiders. Thank you, Big Eightful. There you go. And Go CSU says, is this stadium still going to happen in the future, or can the Raiders abandon the stadium deal in Las Vegas and figure out something in Oakland? The Raiders are in a position where they are engineering for themselves an out. And right now, the biggest out clause there is, and I'm surprised, and here's another situation, here's something else to think about with respect to the upcoming meeting on the 25th of January, is the non-relocation agreement is not on the agenda. Think about that. The non-relocation agreement, which has to be signed, to unlock, or it's one major process to unlock what will eventually be the loan from Bank of America. That's got to happen. And then also, eventually, the bond issue for the $750 million. So you need the $850 million and the $750 million, all right? But you can't get that until you sign those non-relocation agreements. Those non-relocation agreements, both of them have an out clause regarding taxes that's pissing off key people in Nevada. I mean major key people who now view the Raiders as bullies. Bullies, okay? This is a big problem that's going to get bigger, folks. You watch. But as I said to a number of people, and as I've said to you before, the other problem with the non-relocation agreement is the fact that in terms of who owns the Raiders and who is the designated person seen as controlling the Raiders, the arrow, where the arrow points to in black and white, it says Mark Davis. The agreement is written in such a way that Mr. Davis could say to, if he wanted to, oh, his mom would be the controlling person. Point is, his name would be taken, because his name would not be the person controlling the Raiders. It would be somebody else. Guess what? The non-relocation agreement is rendered void. Like that. And the Vegas minders I'm talking about, know that. Some of them regard the Raiders as a bully. Just letting you know that, okay? As Donis very intelligently asked a second ago, he was playing chess. That's right. This is a game of chess, not checkers, okay? Now, who's playing chess? Well, Badane's playing chess. McKibben's playing chess, and for Oakland, County of Alameda's playing chess. The NFL's playing chess. You have a gigantic tri-dimensional chess game. Actually, let's say more like quad. How would you say this? It's tri-dimensional is 3, so 4 would be quad or 4, right? Multi-dimensional. Let's put it this way, because I just thought of a 5th and a 6th. You have a multi-dimensional chess game going on. You quite frankly have 6 interconnected levels of this, not 3. This is not Queen to Queen's level 3. This could be Queen to Queen's level 6. All right, that's where this is. And so Donut says in Las Vegas and Oakland. Silver and Black says Forever Oakland is playing chess. Forever Oakland needs to play with a coalition of Raider fans. That's another story. And Jamal Mills says, oh yeah, Zinni, you said you will explain why you believe Oakland should not put pressure on Mark Davis. Because again, you don't want the Raiders to think ill of, you don't want the Raiders to do anything that would harm the ability of the Raiders to stay in Oakland, for the fans, get a new stadium done in Oakland, let alone, and that's what you just don't want, okay? You don't want to harm the ability, should the Raiders go through with all this and this thing actually work out, you don't want it so that Oakland can't get professional football back in, okay? So this has to be handled just so. And the other reason I say that is because Oakland has a penchant. This goes back through my entire year of being associated with the city of Oakland in this fashion. I will say going back to 1993, okay, where Oakland has a habit of making negotiations between the elected officials and the sports teams personal. It's always, how do you feel about Al Davis or Mark Davis? It's always personal. The only person who, actually, there are only 2 people, all right, who really, and I'm just being honest, who really took the personal out of it and handled it professionally, and that was John Russo when he was city attorney, and Jean Quan when she was mayor. The only problem is that Jean was very jealous of John Russo, and I don't know, Jean just had a real insecurity there regarding Russo that was, to me, borderline something it was really weird. I'll just say that, okay? When you have a city attorney as accomplished as John is, who's a great negotiator, as mayor, elected or no, he was our first elected city attorney, elected 3 times, you want him on your side. But Jean basically did everything she could to quite literally chase him out of town, and it hurt the city. And we're still paying for it in ways that are just, and nothing against current city attorney Barbara Parker, who's a friend of mine for a long time, but I'm just telling it like it is. John came in, we had problems in negotiating with the Warriors because of how we treated Chris Cohan on a personal basis, who was the Warrior owner. John came in, established a great relationship with Chris Cohan, and cleaned up all of our problems with the Warriors, the Raiders, and the A's. It was smooth sailing under John Russo as city attorney. Okay? And that's what you need. You need professional negotiation, professional guidance. We have that with Scott McKibben right now, representing the JPA. All right? So anyway, and so Shim says I don't know how long the extension is for yet, but I'm saying that it's going to go on beyond. It's going to go beyond 2020. Just putting that out there. And Rick Rice says, what can we expect to hear from Forever Oakland tomorrow? And what's actually the Oakland Raider Fan Coalition and Forever Oakland. But what you're going to hear is why this matter is being reopened and what they're trying to get the county of Alameda to do, which is to sign on and approve by vote an effort which would form a lawsuit similar to St. Louis, but have it handled by law firms, new firms, that have pledged to take on the legal battle on contingency. By contrast, the previous set of lawyers wanted to be paid a gigantic retainer. That's not the case this time. Because of the outcome in St. Louis with respect to the judge there allowing trial to go ahead, and now we're going to discovery phase, because of that development, a number of what in the press release were termed world-class law firms stepped up and said, hey, you know what, we can take on your case in a way that it will not cost the taxpayer a dime. That was the gigantic development. You'll hear more about that detail in the morning. So let me see what I'm missing here. And yes, Jamal, I believe I explained your question, right? And Rob Ivan says, Jed, York would welcome the Raiders as subtenants. He would, maybe, but the Raiders don't want to be. And let's see here. Rob says, don't the Niners want the whole Bay Area market? I never got that impression from them. In fact, look, the 49ers are already doing better than the Oakland Raiders in terms of merchandise sales, and they're a more popular team. I mean, the numbers show it. Yeah, I mean, I am not kidding you. The San Francisco 49ers make more money in merchandise sales than the Oakland Raiders. In good part, because of Colin Kaepernick, all right, and also legends of the Niners. But the Niners outpace the Raiders by a distance in terms of merchandise sales. And that's why, you know, I said that, hey, the Raiders are not a global brand, because the 49ers are not a global brand, and yet they're kicking the Raiders' butt in terms of merchandise sales. That's just a fact. You know, I'm going to research why that is, but I really have to just say that if you go back to the Harbaugh years, think about it. The 49ers were very recently in the Super Bowl with Kaepernick, right? They were NFC champions. They won the division. They had Michael Crabtree in a celebrated argument with, you know, his first of many, right? Richard Sherman. All that media buzz does what? It puts a spotlight on the San Francisco 49ers that's seen around the country. So you have people buying Crabtree jerseys from the Niners and, you know, again, Kaepernick jerseys and everything else. So, and then of course you have, you know, T.O. and his time with the Niners. The San Francisco 49ers have been more successful through most of the 21st century than the Raiders. And that success shows up in merchandise sales. And we're talking, and look, when people buy jerseys, the majority of jersey buyers for the National Football League by a gigantic amount are in the United States of America, period. Period, end of story. Overseas, the NFL effort has largely failed. NFL Europe, what's that? A collection of games that, you know, people play, so what? It's not a league. The idea was to establish a league and cause American pro football to propagate around the world. That effort, folks, is not working. It's not working. And why do I say this so vociferously? I say it for this reason. The Oakland Raiders need to concentrate on developing their market in Oakland. That's why. Forget the world. Oakland is the Raiders' base. That's why I say that. And if you are in your home Bay Area and you're already number 2, what does that say for you? It doesn't say anything good. It says that if you're running your team that way where you're number 2 in your home market, you're going to go to Vegas and you expect to be number 1? Come on. Give me a break, all right? And John Marks, look, John Marks writes the 49ers are more successful than the Oakland Raiders in merchandising because the 82 Raiders moved to LA. And John Marks, you have a point there, but in a different way. Barbara, how you doing? If you take a look at the top 10 NFL organizations in terms of merchandise sales, name one that relocated. Take a look at them. None of them relocated. All right? None of them relocated, okay? So, Go CSU says that people are probably upset that the Raiders are moving to Vegas and becoming Niners fans. This is historic. E-Rise Cal says, I'm a season ticket holder going on 5 years. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I get your comments here. E-Rise says, Ruben Ortiz, I'm one of them. Ruben Ortiz said something. I'm trying to find Ruben. He says, don't Raider fans buy other merchandise that comes from bootleg dealers? Yeah, but that doesn't mean, you know, a bootleg dealer is two things. First of all, someone that's unlicensed, and second of all, someone that's small. So to compare a bootleg dealer to Adidas, that doesn't change the equation, you know. So Pedro Gallardo says, Rob, don't the Niners want the whole market? And I think the Niners are doing just fine without trying to push the Raiders out. In fact, there's an argument I would make that the Raiders are a stronger brand in the Bay Area, having the 49ers as a foil. In fact, who do we play this year? The Niners, right? That's going to be a fantastic test of what I'm talking about. And if John Gruden loses that, oh boy. See, this is going to be like Cal and Stanford. Raiders are Cal, 49ers are Stanford. John Gruden cannot afford to lose that game. Of all the games on the Raiders' schedule, the 49er game is a must-win. He cannot afford to lose that game at all. The Barber says they're not becoming 49er fans. They're just not spending money on NFL merchandise. I agree with you. Rob Iman says Jed York has always been welcoming for the Raiders playing at Levi's. That's true. He's personally told me that. John Marks says, what was the merchandising market back in the 1970s? And John, that's a great question. I'll check. I would bet, however, that it was lopsided for the Raiders because the Raiders were winning and the 49ers were a team that was ran by Joe Thomas until Eddie DeBartolo took over the organization and discovered Bill Walsh. Okay? So I would bet that the Raiders towered over the 49ers for merchandise sales during that time. I'll see if I can get the numbers. That wouldn't surprise me at all. It just would not. And so, make sure whatever comments I got here. Rob Iman says, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get the fans in the seats at Levi's next year. They're already buying his jerseys. And, yeah. And as Barbara said, the Raiders, Oakland is the Raiders' base. Pure and simple. Oakland is the Raiders' base. You can't get over that. And Go CSU says if they lose that game, talking about the Raiders against the Niners, the Niners own the Bay. He's right. And look, they'll never stop talking about it. Rob Iman says, I hope the Battle of the Bay is scheduled around my birthday when the schedule's released. When is your birthday, Rob? Let us know. So that's how it shapes up, folks. And Jamal, did I answer your question? Hope I did. But that's how it shapes up. And John Mark says the Niners going to lock Jimmy G to a long-term deal. I'd be surprised. And Rob Iman's birthday is September 25th in 2018. That makes you what? You're not a Leo. I'm a Leo. I'm August 4th. Anyway, Jamal Miller says, yes, you answered my question. Thank you. Glad to have done that. It is 12:22. I'm going to stop at, excuse me, it was 1:22. I'm going to stop at 1:30 because Oscar nominations in the morning, folks. Big April says the Raiders hold the lead over the 49ers 7-6. Ooh. So there's more incentive. The Raiders hold the lead by one game. We've got that one game coming up. The 49ers win the season's, the series is even, and then it would be against John Gruden, okay? It would be against Chucky. Wow. And yeah, John Lynch will get a deal done. And so he definitely would. Definitely. Now, what do I think about the Vikings quarterback situation next year? I think they're going to keep Teddy Bridgewater, and I would be very surprised if they didn't. Case Keenum hurt himself. You just have to just look at it for what it is. He hurt himself by not winning the game in his performance. He was not mobile. It wasn't. Look, the lousy game plan wasn't his fault. But when they go into negotiations, they're not going to say this. They're not going to say, "Oh, gee, Case, we know we gave you a lousy game plan." They're not going to say that. They're going to say, "Well, gee, you didn't execute the game plan properly." Okay? They're going to play hardball. And I predict Case Keenum will wind up someplace else. Sad, but I believe that. Troy Aikman talked about Teddy Bridgewater and his bum knee, but I don't think the Vikings look at it that way. So I really don't. Let's put it this way. You're not going to see Teddy Bridgewater as a Raider. And Rob Iman, that's a good point. I could see that. Rob Iman says, I could see Keenum getting a 1-year prove-it contract. Joseph Benson says, my Giants hired Shermer as the head coach, and he wants to hire Del Rio as defensive coordinator. Yeah, but Ken Norton comes back as, Seahawks, right? So you've got 2 games on the Raiders' schedule that, among others, really stand out. Aside from, of course, the division, battles, like Andy Reid versus John Gruden. You've got Ken Norton Jr. versus his old employer. Okay. And then you've got the Niners fighting the Raiders for base supremacy. Ooh, this is so good. Oh, man. Nice. Oh, man, oh, man. Oh, boy, this is going to be so much fun. I can't wait. You have to circle when the dates come out. Circle in those games. One of those games is going to be a Monday nighter. My prediction. One of those games is going to be a Monday nighter. I hope that they don't. This would be sacrilege. No, they're not going to do that. I'm not even going to say it. One of these games is going to be a Monday nighter, okay? John Mark says, Raiders versus the world. What is the only way the Eagles win the Super Bowl? Just throw, baby. Pablo says, Seahawk-Raider game is in London, which means, hey, that unpredictableness of going to London could play in the Seahawks' favor. That's a wild game. That is a wild game. And Big April says, I hope Raiders Monday Night Football, Raiders-Niners on Monday night. I do too, or Thursday. I hope Monday night. And I agree with all of you. Rob Iman says, Carr versus Jimmy G on Sunday Night Football. That would be great. And see the battle, you know what? The other thing to look for is how, I hate to say this, but given the Raiders and the 49ers play again, when we see a resumption of the fights in the stands that occurred in many cases to very violent effect during preseason, I hope not, but you got to ask that question. I mean, it just seemed like gang night sometimes. When I was very happy to have a club ticket and not be down in the muck there, all right? Just saying. Rob Iman says, I hope Levi's beefs up security. Hey, ML Scott, how are you? Nice to have you here. And see, now that ML is on, I can't stop at 1:30. I stop at 1:45. Dang it. Pride and Purpose says Raiders versus every team. Rob Iman says, I think next year will be Pete Carroll's last year in Seattle. Why do you think that? And let's see here. Pedro says, I hope we have the Raiders around 4 or 5 primetime games. And Rob Iman predicts Raiders Niners on Sunday Night Football, as does some other person. Go CSU Rams agrees with that one. John Mark says, Raiders versus 49ers, Levi called it. At Levi, called it. And Pride and Purpose says, Cooper and Josh Gordon on the same team this year? Ooh, if that happens, oh boy, that would be so cool. Boy. I mean, first of all, Josh Gordon coming to a state where weed is legal. Doesn't have to worry about, you know, getting popped for substance abuse theoretically, right? That could be really good. And Rob Iman says the Legion of Boom is about to be broken up. Yeah, but they've got Ken Norton Jr. back to keep them together. That's going to be interesting. And John Mark says, great job, CSU Rams. I say dilly dilly to the work and contributions of OCSU. Thank you. Dilly dilly. Dilly dilly. Very welcome. I got it. Dilly dilly. Rabbi says, Ken Norton Jr. might be a mistake. No, it was not a mistake. It was not a mistake. It was a statement. And the statement was, as I told you all, even if you didn't want to hear it, that the Raiders' defense was not Ken Norton Jr. It was Jack Del Rio. It was Jack Del Rio from the start. It was Jack Del Rio in the middle. It was Jack Del Rio in the end. It was Jack Del Rio. It was not Ken Norton Jr. Ken Norton was just following instructions and learning. But now, in this instance with the Seahawks, his training wheels are taken off, and he's going to get to call it with a guy that he worked with Pete Carroll, who isn't going to throw him under the bus like that. Really cool. Felix says, how many years do you think it will take John Gruden to make the Raiders playoff contenders? 0.14 seasons. Yeah. No, not 0.14. 0.33 seasons. In other words, the Raiders will be playoff contenders. My evaluation of a possible outcome is the Raiders will be playoff contenders, and we'll see that by the third of the season. Okay? So I could see Gruden squeezing out a 10-6 record from the Raiders, vying for the wild card, based on what that defense he's putting together. And given his knowledge of offense and his way of teaching it, the big test will be if he can whittle down his playbook to meet the needs laid out by the collective bargaining agreement, okay? Install an effective offense, including no huddle, hopefully. And that this Mr. Gunther comes through with a defense that, thankfully, we don't have to see two gapping anymore. Oh, thank you. Oh, man. So tired of two gapping. All right? Those two developments are great. Now, the other real consideration is the degree to which the Raiders build up a really great data analysis unit and then use the information. Okay. So, yeah, I think that the Raiders will turn out to be a playoff team this year. That is a hypothesis. A hypothesis is an educated guess based on study. Now, John Gruden, we've got Woof Woof says Del Rio in New York. Hope he does better. I think he will do well as a defensive coordinator. I think he's always put together top flight defenses. And so Rob Iman says this season. Rob Iman said next season. You mean, but this coming season is on Carr. It is, because Gruden has said he wants Carr to be a CEO, and I question if he's got the chops for that, okay? Because he says, I just do what they tell me to do. But you can't be a robot in John Gruden's system. You've got to have a brain. You've got to be able to think. You have to be able to come up with an argument about why you did something. You know how Rich Gannon used to argue with John Gruden? Those were healthy arguments, because Rich Gannon had his particular reason why he was taking an approach. John Gruden had a particular reason why he wanted something done, and they argued about it. Did I think it was great to have that on the sidelines? No. But that's what you get that's what you get from Gruden, at least in the past. Will he retain that? It remains to be seen. I can't imagine he's changed much. So the other question is, will will Derek Carr play well with that? And I think that's the big question. If Carr decides, hey, you know what, I can't deal with this guy's voice, I don't like the way he's talking to me under duress, you could see a problem. Okay? I could see that as being a big problem. The mitigating factor will be the effectiveness of the playbook. If Gruden puts Carr and the Raiders in a system that just plain works, you know what? All that argument will be just icing on the cake. So, prime purposes, I think Jalen Richard can be a Charlie Garner for Gruden. What about Marshawn? And Big April says the Raiders should win no huddle. Dilly dilly. Rob Iman says it's either playoffs or Carr is traded. Yep. And I'm sorry, Kirk Cousins is not the savior for anybody. Great guy, it would seem. Good quarterback. But the savior, I don't know. Well, you know what? I can't think of an offense to put him in that would make him just that. So let me put an asterisk by his name. But not for the money he's going to command. Pedro says, being buddies does not produce wins. Correct. ML Scott says, Ken Norton Jr. signed with Seattle. Big win for Seattle. They get a guy who's got a lot he wants to prove. He was fired by the Raiders. He gets to go up against his old employer. Don't think he doesn't want to crush him. And Felix says, do you think LA Chargers will reload or rebuild for 2008? They're always up or down, no middle. I think the Chargers under Anthony Lynn are on a great path. I think the Chargers are, if I had to really put my finger on what they're missing, I believe that they would benefit more from having a top flight middle linebacker even than the Raiders would. And I say that because, that's the obvious piece. They've got a lot of great defensive linemen, okay? But that monster in the middle is what they're missing. That run stopper, that guy in the middle that can just plug it is what they're missing. And they can get it by scheme, okay? But I believe in this either draft or free agency they can find that. So let's see if they do. And Richard says they need a competent place kicker. Yep. John Mark says, Kirk Cousins, you like that. Dilly dilly. Big April calls Alex Smith to Jacksonville. Wow, everybody's willing to cause the Chiefs to part ways with Alex Smith. And Pride and Purpose says Jacksonville's linebackers can fly and thump. And right, and they've set the model for what you're going to see in the upcoming draft. You know, what Miles Jack did in that game was just outstanding. And yeah, the Jacksonville linebackers are incredible. You have to ask why Jacksonville doesn't play a 46 defense. They've got Calais Campbell, monster defensive tackle. They have the linebackers to make it work. Why don't they use it? That's the model for defenses of the future. That defense is scary quick. Jacksonville's defense is so good that the only way the Patriots could win was to use Jacksonville's tendencies to be too aggressive against them. That's the only way you're going to beat Jacksonville. But that's the model for NFL defenses of the future. Joseph Benson says the only spot they use an improvement is getting a run-stuffing defensive tackle. I think you're talking about now the Giants. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so, is that talking about the Giants, right? Because the Jacksonville has a run-stuffing defensive tackle. Jimmy T says Raiders will draft defensive line, outside linebacker, wide receiver, James Washington, strong safety, running back in that order. Hey, speaking of quarterbacks, by the way, watch Lamar Jackson, but also there is a kid, Amir Hall. Amir Hall was the best player in historically black college football and quarterback last year. Amir Hall scored, get this, he scored 45 touchdowns for Boise State Athletics. 45 touchdowns. 39 by pass, 6 by run. He's 6'4", 212 pounds. He's a junior, and he didn't declare for the NFL draft. He's penciled in for 2020, but if he is not considered a first-round pick, that is a clear sign there's a mistake somewhere in the National Football League in terms of thinking. But I want you to keep that name in mind, Amir Hall. Now, Joe Ruby says, what free agents, how many quarterbacks playing today will be in the Hall of Fame one day? I can count at least 6. Yeah, I mean, you've got, well, obviously Tom Brady. You've got Drew Brees. You've got Phil Rivers Phil Rivers. You've got Derek Carr. You've got Matt Stafford. That's 5 right there. You've got Russell Wilson. That's 6. You've got Jameis Winston. That's 7. Watch out for the Bucs, okay? Because the Bucs can really focus on their defense. They're going to be a force to reckon with, be reckoned with. No question about it. This is Dirk Carter's year. He's got to do it. He's got to do it, or he's out. That's it. That's it. Jimmy T says Andrew Reid should be fired, and Garden State says Jacksonville they could be even better with that huge salary cap and add more players in the draft. Yeah, if Jacksonville gets a wide receiver like a James Washington that could just scare the heck out of you, we'll see them again in the AFC Championship game. We really will. And I believe they also need, yeah, they really will. I think that's the deal. And also a defensive end that is more or less the equal of Calais Campbell if they can trade for him, or if they're fortunate enough to get one of the guys coming out in the draft. I had my mind on one guy I saw in the East-West Shrine game, and his name just went right. Bilal, I forgot Bilal's last name. I think he'll be a great defender for Jacksonville. Heck, I think he'd be great for the Raiders. But he's the prototypical Jacksonville lineman. All right. The Gable says Lamar Jackson to Buffalo. Ooh. Prime Purpose says, well, where will Le'Veon Bell end up? I'll be surprised if the Steelers didn't try to retain him. Rob Iman says Titans made a mistake in hiring Vrabel. I agree with you. That was a head scratcher to me. It made no sense, and Vrabel's speech didn't give me any comfort at all. It's full of cliches. It's like whatever. John Mark says, how about Lamar Jackson in Oakland? Ooh. I think, yeah, John Mark, you have a point. If John Gruden is going to consider Colin Kaepernick, why not Lamar Jackson, right? And I think Lamar would look good in silver and black. I really do. Now, Rob Iman says, I think Jacoby Brissett would be better with McDaniels there now. I agree. Because they know each other. Right. You don't even think about that. You're absolutely right. That's a great point. I didn't think about that. It's 1:41, folks. I'm going to stop. I'm going to start going wax on and wax off. It is 1:41 at night here. I got to work on getting some rest, all right? Because Oscar's son, this is Oscar. It's already Monday out here. Oscar nominations. Anybody got a prediction for? This is where predictions matter. Oscar nominations. Anyone got a prediction for who you think is going to be nominated for Best Special Effects? Star Wars. Anybody? You think James Franco is going to get up there as Best Actor? I do. Your size, I believe so personally, plus Murray is younger, okay? John Mark says, you got it. Anybody Oscars, anyone? Remember, 5:30 in the morning in the West, 8:30 in the East. John Mark says, Last Jedi. Felix says, well, Eli Manning and Jags will know. I don't know. Give me, Richard Hike says, VFX will probably go to Blade Runner. I agree with you, Richard. Hey, Richard, you're going to be out there for us, right? Richard's the star in the morning, right, Richard? Hey, Richard, how you doing? Richard's going to be the star, man. You ready for tomorrow, Richard? Hey, folks, Richard will be there for Zenny 62. He'll be there live. That's right. And thank you for coming through for us, Richard. We got Richard Hike. We got Go CSU. We got Morgan. We got a great team of vloggers. And Richard says he's ready to go now. He's excited. He's fired up. Rick Rice says Tommy Wiseau for Best Actor. Oh! Bob Iman says The Shape of Water wins Best Picture. Okay. John Mark says watch horror films, keep America strong. Will you all, having said that, tune in tomorrow night if I do an Oscar nominations stream? You know, talk about who got nominated, that sort of thing. You know, because last year at this time I didn't have this live stream. And I'd love to talk about that. I also cover the Oscars. I want to get more back into that. That's not a term. I want to get back into that. Okay. All right. Richard Hike says maybe an A's Fan Fest live stream. Is the A's Fan Fest tomorrow? Is it tomorrow? Can I lap up the lawsuit and live stream tomorrow? Yeah, I can do that. Okay, so tell you what. The Fan Fest is Saturday. Yes, pencil that in for Saturday, Fan Fest. Yeah. Actually, I'll be back in town by then. I'll be there. So you don't have to worry about that. Well, I'll be there. But you want to do a live stream? Yeah, you can. But we can do... let's see here. We have the lawsuit. I'll wrap up the lawsuit and live stream early. And then I'll talk about an Oscar noms later. So we'll have 2. All right? All right. See you all there. Remember, Richard Hike in the morning, 8:30 Pacific, 11:30 Eastern. All right, everybody. You can bet your last money it's been fun. I can't steal. I can't say it like the great John Cornelius. But thank you all so very much for making this the best live stream of its kind around. I'll see you.